What a wonderful day! What a wonderful day!
The equation is simple. Monkey Man plus Big Stick plus hyper-fanatic action equals one of the best action games of the year. Black Myth WuKong speaks directly to my player's soul. An escalating boss rush action-adventure game based on Journey to the West that uses some of the most exhilarating fights to make me feel both small and powerful. And in that regard, Black Myth has largely accomplished what I wanted from it. It does so many things right, and some are even knocked out of the park, yet I feel it still isn't quite there in terms of execution. I mean, don't get me wrong, this game is a gorgeous example of what Unreal Engine 5 is capable of. Its martial arts heavy combat is heart-pounding and glorious to behold, and the boss fights are intricate and feature wondrous designs inspired by a deep connection to Chinese mythology, and the choice of story is a bold reinvention. No, though Black Myth WuKong has all that going for it, it's in the little details and performance issues that I find so much of my problem. Dialogue often got desynced and subtitles would fail to appear. I clipped through the ground while climbing multiple bridges, and even got stalled out during the defeat of a boss, causing me to have to completely redo that fight. But despite my frustrations, the Monkey Man's adventure to topple gods is just too much fun to be down on.
Your destiny's bleak and stark. In its grip, we share the mark.
Black Myth acts as a sort of continuation of the Journey to the West story, picking up in an epic encounter following Wukong's ascension to the heavens. Most of the Western world is only going to be familiar with this through adaptations of the original story, though I'm not sure you Dragon Ball lovers are going to be as well prepared as you think. Developer Game Science has a deep reverence for the source material, as the game takes no time to explain anything to you ever, which casts you into a pretty in-depth world. While normally this would bother me, I kind of loved how matter-of-factly the world is. Like, no one's gonna explain to you why there's walking around ratmen. They're just there. There is no need for lengthy exposition on what has happened, allowing for the focus to be mostly on what is happening. However, as a result, you may find yourself searching for the backstory in the information section, or straight up Googling how certain characters are connected. And as much as I love being plopped into a well-developed world that is established, I did regularly get lost in the sauce and completely lose the plot. So if you want a good understanding of things, I'd probably seek out a solid breakdown video over there on YouTube. Every RPG ever hands you the reins of a chosen one, and Black Myth doesn't shake this trope at all. No, it's the same thing. But man, is it different sitting behind the monkey bars of the Destined One. As the Destined One, you set out on a path of self-discovery, coming up against the many foes protecting the 6 artifacts of Wukong. These artifacts contain pieces of Sun Wukong as a way to escape the icy grip of death. Starting in the deep foliage of the mountains, you begin your long journey, which is going to mostly consist of being in large areas that are fairly linear and lead into boss fights for you to overcome. Environments here are a goddamned showcase for what Unreal Engine is capable of now, with some of the most vibrant and dense locations I've ever seen in a video game. The ray traced lighting and reflections make water and sunlight in particular very cool to marvel at. You'll find yourself stopping a lot to use the photo mode or just take in the sights. There is also a real feeling of carved out existence here, making the world seem believable even when faced with a headless musician. However, the downside to all this hyperrealism can often be readability. When everything is similarly graded, detailed, and lit, it becomes easy to lose enemies in the sauce of polygons. Bosses do stick out though, so there's that, and Wukong himself owns a wonderful set of wardrobes and powers that help give clarity in the moment of intense fights. The real issue with all the glorious high-res landscapes is that their vastness often makes them feel empty overall. Sure, you come across the occasional NPC and plenty of regular enemies, but the world itself seems lived in, as in past tense. Luckily, You don't linger in any of these spots for too long, so this detraction really doesn't count. As the story progresses, so too do the intricacies of the big bad's fights. Ranging from a blood-soaked tiger warrior to a white glistening dragon, the fights are nothing short of spectacular. And the final few fights of the game are some of the best I've ever conquered. Like many who picked this game up for the first time expecting a From Software-inspired adventure full of punishing battles and backtracking galore, I was pleasantly surprised to find Black Myth has more in common with the likes of God of War. Don't get me wrong, every showdown is a life or death affair, complete with plenty of dodging and on your feet thinking. I died more times than I care to admit against the big-headed Buddha man that struts outside the area of the first major boss fight. But the combat itself is weighty, giving heft and feedback to hits and emphasizing the critical moments of those fights. On the other end of the staff, Sun Wukong is light on his feet, able to deftly dodge any direct dangers. And man, if this game nails one sound design element over all else, it is that sound that plays when you get the perfect dodge. Like the afterimage super speed sound of Dragon Ball Z, but distinctly more mystical sounding. Nailing perfect multiple dodges in a row is akin to reaching enlightened. The actual combat at Black Myth is deceptively simple, so much so that you may find your early hours attempting to just mash buttons. This would be a mistake though, because Sun Wukong's staff combat isn't about wailing on your opponent. It's about timing and pacing. Light hits have a combo string that can be augmented and extended with skill points, but always ends in a big bombast stick attack, and that does a good amount of damage and oftentimes staggers or interrupts moves. As you land those hits, you also generate focus, allowing you access to spend focus points on charged heavy hits, staggering your enemy once again and even interrupting those moves at crucial moments. The Monkey King can take on 3 forms of stances to handle combatants. These are the Smash, Pillar, and Thrust stances. Smash is exactly what it sounds like. Big stick, make rock go boom, all about dealing damage and earning focus to stay engaged. The Pillar stance allows our Monkey Man to jump atop his staff and charge his heavy attack. This stance is in particular handy whenever you're trying to dodge those pesky low ground attacks and still get your charge in to do your big stick go thud move. And lastly, Thrust stance, which has the most devastating charge move, that almost always staggers enemies and also lets you hit them from a much farther away range. Sun Wukong's staff, if you didn't know this, which you probably should if you're planning to play this game, can extend to be any size that he wants. It can be as small as a hair or as long as 30 football fields. It can be the size of a pin or it can be the size of a big map. It's really up to the holder. The last element of Wukong's cinematic combat is the abilities the Monkey King receives along the way. Well, I guess re-receives. At the beginning of the game, you get a sweet taste of what a fully decked out primate is capable of. His unique set of skills range from
Together, strong!
to the more anime-feeling abilities of Cloudy Step and Immobilize. The relentless flow of combos into abilities is less like Devil May Cry and more like I said earlier, God of War 2018. Breaking your combos to respond to an incoming attack by immobilizing the enemy, only to return to that combo to land those final hits so you can get your big, strong, big boy hit in there. And a focus strike is a satisfying as hell dance. And if you add to that the larger encounters that have a dance all their own, it really does feel like a kung fu epic brought to life. The skill isn't in reaction, it's in watching and learning. It's not enough to master attack patterns alone. To conquer this mountain, you must channel yourself into a restrained aggression. Black Myth WuKong does many things right for me. It's a more than excellently put together action game with appropriately weighty and epic combat. It also features multiple vignettes, each done in a different animation style that makes me wish more games felt like those depictions instead of endlessly clamoring for photorealism. But I digress. The voice acting and soundtrack are phenomenal, and its world, while a little undercooked between bosses, is still a joy to journey through. The fighting isn't everything here either, as the game has plenty of places for you to just take a moment of peace from. I can't stress enough how cool I think this game is, and how much passion and reverence for the source material can be felt in every aspect of it. But the voyage is a little lackluster thanks to a mostly silent protagonist, some pacing issues, and while the boss rush feeling is a great time, most everything else feels kinda mediocre in comparison. All that said, Black Myth WuKong is a strong outing for game science, whose unique feeling combat along with stellar visuals elevate this game above many of its contemporaries. I give Black Myth an 8 out of 10. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to subscribe to our channel, leave a like on the video down below, and suggest what games you would like to see us review. Until next time, for Hardwired, I'm Andrew Hamilton.